David, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Gregory. How about yourself?
I am completely jealous of your studio. It is rocking. And you were telling me before we started recording that you actually do a lot of this stuff. So you've got your own show, you mentor other advisors. How did you get started in this? Help us understand maybe about your practice, what you do, and what you specialize in.
Well, as you can tell by all the gray hair on my head and on my chin, I've been at it a while. Ironically, I was a college dropout, and basically, I ran a couple of pizza places, and so I ran the number one store in the world for the largest pizza franchise out there, and you can figure out there's a game you can play, that has the same name, but we won't give any names out. But anyway, ran that store just outside of Disney World's doors and dropped out of school, made a ton of money, over $100,000 as a 19-year-old, because they paid you like an entrepreneur. They paid you way back then, basically a whopping $15,000 salary. Now this is 1987, so I'll give you some prospect here, but they paid you 20% of the store's P&L. Every 4 weeks you did the P&L in the store. And so you quickly, if you had any understanding of what was going on, be an efficient manager, use your time well, keep your staff and your labor costs within reason, increase sales, and your bottom line increases and more profit, and you were getting bigger bonus checks. So I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea I'd end up in the financial services industry. Lo and behold, I was going to franchise that particular industry, and they changed ownership. And so I decided I didn't need them, and I opened up my own restaurant, turned into four in a couple years. And before I know it, I was a millionaire in my 20s. And it was, a rough, hard journey, grinding. Anybody's worked in the restaurant industry, if you've ever been a bartender or waiter, you work hard, long hours for the cash you get. But
Yeah,
running
absolutely.
the place, you run 80, 90 hours. But I literally missed my son's third birthday party. It's a story I actually tell quite often. And so, with my wife being pretty upset at that, it was time to make a life transition. So, we put our establishment up for sale, and I'm now getting a check with a couple of commas in it. And so, I need some financial advice. So, I call my broker up. He worked at one of the original Wall Street firms called Payne Weber. Doesn't exist anymore, but I asked him to do some help. I need some help financial planning. He brought me in and showed me a little pie chart with all these colors on it. I was going to invest my money, and I could count on like $70 to $90,000 in dividends for the rest of my life. I was like, this is going to be great. Sign me up. And then I asked him some tough questions. What do I do next? I'm trying to think of what my next career move is going to be. I want to be at home with my kids. Long story short, he's like, why don't you just come work here? I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been selling pizzas and calzones and wings to tourists outside of Disney. And
Yeah.
he's like, you're a people person. You'll need that skill. And you do more research. And I did. I traded a lot of stocks and even commodities, in my own account all those years, had some fun with it. So I was intrigued by it. I was like, all right, why not? So anyway, long story short, I signed up, became a rookie stockbroker at Payne Weber about 27 years ago, I guess now. And we were gobbled up by UBS a couple years later. And the dot-com bubble smacked me pretty hard, as it did everybody. And back then, when I first became an advisor, hey, can you fog a mirror, Gregory? I'll take you on as a client, and you would overpromise
Yeah.
service no matter what size the account was. And because you were but it was a fun business, but you were trying to get in it. But when that dot-com bubble happened, and so many people forget this, 3 consecutive years of double-digit losses on every indice. And I personally lost over half my fortune, along with most of the clients I had, and I wish I could tell you that that was the end of the pain. But the one thing I told people I had on my side is I had time. I wasn't even 30. So I had time on my side to recover. Retirees, who mainly we work with here at Retire Smart, don't have that luxury of time. So we talk about risk management being really a key thing you have to understand when you've accumulated these assets. But I wish to say that was the end of the pain. The real pain came when I got a letter in the mail from the IRS, and I got the largest tax bill I could
That's never a good
imagine.
feeling.
Yeah, what
That's
was bigger
yeah.
than anything I've ever made in a year. All right. So it was a pretty big number that I owed from the largest transaction of my life when I'd sold my restaurants, now almost 5 years in the rearview mirror. And I didn't get good proactive tax planning. So I've been on a mission literally since 2003 to understand, for most of my clients, taxes are the number one bill you're going to face, both in life, but it gets even worse in retirement. And so I left the big wirehouse, big box world back in 2010 and kind of started my own thing, and built a firm up. We got acquired by a much larger firm, And then I moved. I was in Florida all that time. I moved to Nebraska 9 years ago to do tax planning, actually for another firm. Thought I was done being an owner, and lo and behold, the opportunity came about, and that wasn't a good fit. And my wife and I prayed about it, and we are Christians, and it's important to us. But
Yeah,
we loved
me too.
Omaha. And we moved here. What a
Yeah.
wonderful town we live in, and we started Retire Smart. Started the new firm, and we've been on a rocket ship. I mean, we've had over 1,000 clients come on board with our firm. We've scaled this out, trained a lot of advisors, and built out an amazing practice. And I think that's because, one, we're laser focused on only two types of clients do we help here: those that are at or near retirement, and those that are entrepreneurs that own small businesses. Those are the people we focus on, because those are the folks that the tax code penalizes the most. And there are over 1,700 incentives in the tax code today to help somebody pay less in taxes. But most of us don't understand how the tax
Don't
code's written
even.
or why their
Yeah.
incentives are there, right? And so we
Yeah.
we don't use all those, but we have it down to about 170. 10% of them we do actually utilize in various ways. But we find each client, depending on if they're a retiree or a business owner, by layering 5 to 8 tax strategies that help them stop overpaying taxes, they can have a much more fruitful retirement or entrepreneurial life by
Hmm.
reducing their overpaying in taxes. And that money, if you're an entrepreneur, either helps you grow your business more if you want to put more money into the business scale, put more to the bottom line to feed your family if that's important, or just have, give it away. One of the things we are able to do now, give a lot of money away, which is great.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
retirees, it's really critical and important, Greg, because so many advisors have helped clients defer, because we all been told this myth, right? Hey, wait till you're retired, man. Defer your taxes because you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you're retired. And that's a joke. That's 4% of the people I've run into. And I've retired over 2,500 people. So I'm telling
That's
you,
awesome.
for most people,
Congrats.
if you're a
That's good.
successful saver, you really need to understand taxes are your number one expense, and you need to get a handle on it. Whoever you get advice from, really, really important.
What are some of the questions that your clients typically ask when they meet with you for the first time?
That is a really great question. What questions? And I always tell people what questions you should ask, right? So when you're meeting with someone, I always tell people you want to make sure, first of all, that, and I coach advisors too. So, advisors I'm like, well, why would anybody hire you? Give me your elevator pitch. And I've got X experience, and I went to this school and
Yeah,
I got this degree. I'm
the
like, okay,
typical
that's the
rigmarole.
barrier
Yeah.
to entry. Thank you. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
expected. No, what do
Yeah.
you do differently? So once you get around the basics of, does the guy or gal you're looking at hiring, do they have the expertise, the knowledge, and the credentials and education that you're looking for? But then, take it a little step further. Do they align with you? And there are different sets of values we all have, and some are going to be more important to others. So I think it's really important if you're just authentic, which is one of our core. So we have 5 core values: smart, stewardship, moving forward, authenticity, relationships, and transparency. Those are our 5 core values here. And authenticity, right in the middle there. Be authentically who you are. And I'm authentically me. I do a lot of media, as we're talking about. I've done national TV. I do local TV every week. I have a radio show that airs on 14 different slots now throughout the Midwest. And I'm who I am, but I also will repel people that aren't attracted to that. So
Sure. And
there's
that's one
nothing
of the
wrong
great
with
things
that.
about content marketing, which is what you're doing. Like, people can kind of self-identify whether or not they like you, they vibe with you or not. And those who do will be naturally attracted to you, and those who don't will intuitively
But it's
not
so
be.
important
So
because
it's,
so
you know,
many people try to tell everybody they're going to be all things to all people, and that's just not realistic, right? So and then, the other thing I would tell you, in the financial services world, when I started back in the wirehouse world, it was cutthroat. I mean, very cut. Like, somebody in your own office would try and steal a client from you, right? And so what
wow,
we've
that's
built here, yeah,
that's
I
wow.
mean, literally, somebody could be in the lobby waiting, and they would try and snake them away from you. It was pretty bad, because it was,
Gosh, talk
and they're all
about a
doing
bad environment for trust.
well, yeah, but that's the way and that was the business world that I grew up in, and it was all transactional, right? Like, I was not always a just 100% RIA fee only fiduciary based business. We were brokers, stockbrokers, right? And I always joke now, hey, brokers make you just that, broker, because they're selling you product, and they're getting paid on transactional business, and so you need to, so those, back to your original question, hey, ask the person you're working, and there's no right or wrong. It doesn't, I don't think everybody has to be fee based. There could be commission based, could be hybrids, but just ask them, how do you get compensated if we work together? It's just a simple question. And they should be telling you this, by the way. That should come out in the first discovery appointment, whatever you're calling that first meeting you're having. We call it a vision appointment. What are you envisioning? But that should be on the table so you understand clearly, concisely, how are you going to be compensated if we decide to move forward, if we decide to work together? And that should be laid out, and there should be no surprises to it. But I always tell people, listen, we are a for-profit entity. I have a staff of, I think, 47 now. I ran payroll yesterday. I want to, when I hit that number, I get that number sent to me in Teams by my director of finance. I want to throw up, but
Yeah. So it sounds like you spent a lot of time thinking. Sounds like you spent a lot of time thinking about your values, and the experiences that you've been through have helped shape how you approach your business and the firm and the values that you've built out in your firm. What are some of the ways that you find team members and bring people into your business? How do you find people who reflect those values? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. So as you're building a team, and I can tell you, I've had to learn new skills. So I was a solo producer, as many small independent financial advisors are. I was the only one revenue driving, and I hired employees around me to service the clients, and I was growing. And I had to finally hit that point. If my mission really is to help more people, I'm gonna have to scale the sales team. I have to hire other advisors. And originally, I basically would go through headhunters, trying to find experienced advisors, interview them as best you can, background test them, et cetera, and try to find like kind values. And I had some hits, and some guys are still here, and had some misses, and frankly, that weren't. And so for the last 5 years, we've focused almost entirely on training our own. In our industry, and I have lots of friends because I've been doing this so long at most of the big box firms, you name it, whatever color and stripe, you wirehouse, regionals, et cetera. And they're happy that they've been there a long time. But if they were to go independent, it's a different world for them to understand this side, and they're hard to change in their habits. And so I have built what we call an ensemble practice. It's a team approach here. There's no one advisor relationship assigned to a client. We actually assign the entire team. But the way I've trained the advisors for the last 5 years is we deeply go into interns. So we hire them as interns, and basically,
so you get to mold them.
Yeah, we're looking for them usually in their junior year of college. And so here we're in Omaha. So we have University of Nebraska, Omaha, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and Creighton University. And we have several interns just outside the studio right now working for us. We have about 8 coming into work this summer here. So we run a pretty big intern program. We pay them, and we pay them well above minimum wage. We actually pay them. But what we promise them is they're going to be in live meetings. They're not just going to be making coffee or running copiers. We certainly make them do some of the grunt work. That's part of the rite of passage, if you will. But we put them in real world scenarios, and we watch them. We watch their interaction with our clients. We watch them, how they interact with the rest of our employees. And then basically every month, I have an executive team I've created. We kind of do an internal review of, hey, what's your feeling? And I don't get to see every one of them because I've grown the staff. I don't get to say hi to every staff member even every day. It's crazy. But with the team I trust, we now know, hey, this one would be a pretty good fit. And there's an old adage, I think it's Jim Collins in the book Good to Great, and don't quote me if it's a different book, but get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and then whoever's left on the bus, make sure you get them eventually in the right seat. And, we just had the NFL draft here recently, right? So if you're the GM of a team, are you hiring because of the most need, I need a tight end, or are you hiring the best culture and talent fit that's available, even though it might not be the spot you need? And I would rather hire the latter. I want to hire the culture fit and the talent, and I'll find a spot for them until I get them in the spot that I really need them. And I think that's and we see it in our client base that come in and reviews. I mean, we sent a client survey out back in, I believe, January, and we typically do this about every 3 years. We may start doing it every year, but we hire an outside firm to do a very in-depth survey. What we do well, what can we improve upon? What are we missing on? And when you grow, we just know there's gonna be growing pains. And so we just, one of my mottos, fall on the sword. When we do something wrong, we're going to own it. We're just going to own it. It's our mistake. We'll take care of it. And sometimes, we have egg on our face when we do stuff. Out of that, we gave them the opportunity to give us a review. And I think within like 3 weeks, we had over 65-star reviews show up on Google,
wow, congrats.
Testifying,
that's awesome,
hey, we love working with you. So that tells us we're doing something right? And we do marketing. We're a bigger marketing arm than a lot of financial advisory firms, and we have the ability to do that. And because my mission is to help more people, so we do have TV and radio now, in at least our local market. We actually signed the University of Nebraska Athletics last year as an official sponsor. That was a really big deal for us. We don't have pro sports here in Nebraska, so that is a major deal. But it's hard if you're in our community not to know our brand, and that makes it easier for our clients when they, hey, we work with the folks at Retire Smart. I think you'd like them, and so now the referrals come in. In fact, we're hosting a wine tasting here next week. Every quarter now we host a wine tasting in our office for any client that onboarded the previous quarter, so they can meet other families that onboarded with the firm, feel confident and comfortable. Other people have basically handed over their life savings. But then we do an office tour while they're here. We do some trivia and have fun. We actually give them a tour, show them the studio, and have it all go, all the lights and whistles on. But it just helps. And then we make sure they understand the full menu of services that are available to them. Because typically a financial advisor, you're going to meet with them once, kind of have a discovery meeting. You're going to meet again with maybe a proposal, and then the clients decide to onboard with your firm. But that's all they've done in the first couple of months. They don't even know that, oh, you can handle estate planning, you can handle Medicare, you can handle Medicaid, you can handle, and so we let them know all the menu of services are available. They get to meet all the different departments. There's somebody from every department responsible to be there at that event. But that culture, they know they're part of the family, and that helps them generate referrals, which is good for business. So certainly. And just, we love when clients give us the hugs, et cetera. And we have a board in our kitchen, our big break room, with all the thank you letters we get. So we get a couple every week, and it's just nice when you get the handwritten note.
What are some of the ways that you train your interns really into your values? What are some of the things that you look for? What qualities in the people that you bring onto your team? Does anything stand out to you?
Well, I would tell you what you're looking for is their references or their professor's recommendations. So when interns apply, you should start talking to who these people have to answer to. So you always want to talk to somebody who has a position of authority over that person. So if you can talk to their parents, that's great. And many of our interns have actually been kids of our clients. That have come in and interested in the business. Yeah, and we've actually hired several of them. And in fact, I have one, two. I'm trying to think. At least three I can count on right now that started as clients and are now employees. And so in fact, Mary.
Wow. So you've hired your
clients. Absolutely. Well, they love the firm. They love what we do. Well, I mean, I would tell you, so Mary, who's my executive assistant, who scheduled this, you and I together here, right? Mary started off as a client many years ago, came through one of our advisors, Mike, onboarded with us, was working in an admin position at a local hospital, and just hated the day-to-day fluorescent light cubicle she was working in, and just, wanted something different. Came on board, applied. We had a client service position open, applied. We ended up hiring her for that. And of course, we're always cautious. You hiring a client, explain to them. Now we have to give you a discount. But anyway, no. So then, but she was a great fit, but we had her on the wrong seat. Skill set ultimately did not align, and we hired for culture there. We found her flourishing. So for the last, I guess, 3 years, she's been my executive assistant, and fantastic at that, and keeps me on time. And the reason I got in the studio on time to talk to you today. But I mean, it's
tell her I
bottom
said
line
thanks.
is when you're identifying, who's a good fit on your culture, it's what they do when you're not watching. Shamelessly, that they sign in letting them know, but we have cameras all around the office too, so you can see how people act when the boss is not around, right? And so we can find out the culture, what they do. You can see how they handle the interviews. When are they only smiling at the person doing the interview in the process, or were they cordial to everybody along the way? And we purposely have people go through the lobby and interact with them to get a feel for if they are the right fit. And sometimes you just get a bad feeling. And, I will go to some of my employees, and they'll, it's like the old Roman days, they're going to give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But you got to trust your team, because if your teammates are not going to be comfortable with that person, there's no sense in hiring them.
What are some of the ways that your team gets to know your clients?
So the wine tasting I mentioned is a great way. We do a lot of educational events. So what we have found is an educated client becomes a much better client because they understand the things that we're going to be talking about.
Right.
Like, we don't build out these 120-page financial plans that I used to build with software and throw them in a binder that just go are irrelevant tomorrow and collect dust. It's a living, breathing plan we follow. We start it with an income plan, a risk management plan. In other words, when the volatility of their assets and make sure they're having a correct alignment. We have to have a written income plan that has what if scenarios in it. And then we start with a basic tax plan. And then we add to those things. So we're going to meet with our clients 5 to 7 times in the first 18 months. It's the process we go through. After the initial planning process is done, then depending on the client's needs, we're going to meet typically 1 to 4 times face-to-face after that per year. Most clients are literally happy with one formal review and one kind of informal review mid-year. It could be a quick Zoom meeting if they don't want to drive across town. It could be face-to-face. We let the client decide the case. We proactively call them for the meeting, and they tell us which type of meeting they'd like to do.
Gotcha.
But you have to have all these systems and processes built out so the client experience is going to be the same, and you can deliver on the
Right.
same service. So when we do tax planning, not all clients, but over 90% of clients are typically going to be actively doing things like Roth conversions because these clients are typically older, 60 to 63 or so when they walk in our doors. A lot of the clients that walk in and they've saved a pile of dough up 90% of their net worth in that tax deferred bucket. And they've done such a good job. They paid off their debt. They won't spend the money. And so, like, let's just keep growing it because we don't pay taxes. And we just illustrate what that looks like at RMD age, required minimum distribution age at 75. If you got like $1 million in your 401k at 60 and we grow at 6%, you're gonna have a little over 2 million at 75. And that first RMD is going to be over $80,000. And now we have a income problem in reverse. And this is what most of our clients literally have. It's not that they're going to be shortfall. They're going to have too much income and they'll be paying taxes that they shouldn't pay. And not only that, then a couple of those RMDs with future growth. And now they're paying additional taxes, IRMA, Medicare penalties, right? And one IRA distribution can create up to 7 different taxes. So if it's a married couple, because now we got 4 Medicare penalties, BD, right? Plus we're paying state income tax and federal income tax, and sometimes even AMT tax. And so and that's what's great is I actually built software to show all this. We actually license software to other advisors now because the tax code has been such a big part of our practice, but we model all this out. Now, of course, modeling is modeling. You have to make some assumptions, right? And we know what can happen there. But we typically model reasonable growth, 5 or 6% or so. We're not like, hey, if your portfolio grows at 12% like it's done the last 10 years. No, if it just grows at half that amount, you have these tax problems. And so then we start to formulate a plan. Roth conversions, are they charitable inclined? Should we do donor advised funds? Should we just do lump giving? Should we do some advanced tax strategies? Should we add in charitable trusts, et cetera? And help the client get the tax planning part done. And so that first year, we basically meet. The first appointment is what we call a vision appointment. They come in for what we call the report card, which is our software, and we grade them just like you're in school on the 5 key areas
Oh,
to what
nice.
we believe is a successful retirement. And that's smart. Sources of income. You got to know where your source of income are coming. That's the written inflation adjusted income plan. The M is medical and healthcare, something often left off the table in financial planning, yet the second biggest expense behind taxes. Then the A is for advanced financial planning, asset and liability management. Do we have assets we want to sell, a business, a family farm, rental property? Do we want to pass or transition any of these assets to our kids? Do we want to use the wealth they've created now, et cetera? We have to have a plan for that. Spouse to spouse first, and then, ultimately to our beneficiaries or charities that we want. Risk management, the R, and then T, tax efficient strategies like we're talking about. So at the first meeting, we discover what they're trying to uncover, make sure we understand, we heard what they said, and we have a very strict model. It's called the SERVE model. We serve our clients. We set the agenda. S is set the agenda. We evaluate. The E in serve is evaluate what we heard. V is verify that we heard it correct and ask any follow-up questions. Then we're going to review and recap if we think we can help them. And then E will decide if we should move forward and engage or not. So we literally show this on the board with clients. This is how we do everything. And then we have a very formal process for every concern they want us to potentially address. And so the second meeting is when they decide, hey, you guys are the fit. Let's move forward. basically start the transfer process over. Then we're going to meet typically 6 or 8 weeks later. All assets have been transferred. We've got them allocated based on what we discussed. So we're going to make sure they know how to view their assets, do a what I call a mini review. And then we set a 6-month strategy session. So 6 months after that, we're going to do our first review. And then we have to remind them of what the whole plan was, because it's a lot, and it's like, wait, what all do we say? And so that's why we meet so much.
I like how you have a 6-month check-in like that.
Yeah, you've got to do it so they realize what you did and why. And in between that 2-month meeting, the mini review and the 6-month strategy session, there's typically 1 or 2 things of homework depending on the client's age. So if they were 64, we're going to send them to a Medicare class. If they haven't adjusted their will,
you send your clients to school, dude. I love
absolutely.
That.
We teach over 104 classes a year. We have a 1,200 square foot classroom. So we teach Social Security 2 nights a month, like every other month. And we do Medicare. We do a Medicaid spend down class. We do a digital asset class. We do a charitable giving class. So we've curated a whole content of 14 different educational classes, and we run them throughout the year. And depending upon where they are in their plan, we know which class to invite them to. And by the way, we're not bad marketers. So if you want to bring your neighbor Sally to that's great,
Sure,
and so half the class is prospective clients and half the class is clients. And so they don't have to try and juggle everything right when that decision's coming up before we make a Social Security decision. So if they're 61, go to Social Security. So before you turn 62, you understand the rules of the game, and then we'll have that conversation at your next review with your advisor. Should we wait? Should we continue waiting? Usually we are waiting, but so we have a very structured process. So we educate the client on what matters at that point in time. And we have a business exit class, a proactive tax and business exit class. I am one of 4 CEPAs on the floor. We have certified exit planning advisors. And we say exit planning of business owners, entrepreneurs, you and I. Exit planning is not today. It starts today, but it doesn't matter if the exit's 25 years out. You have to start thinking about your books and records, the business, what entity you're operating in. About 40% of all small business owners we talk with are in the wrong entity structure based on what they tell us their goals are. And because somebody just told them, hey, just create this. And they did. And then they started the business, and they got so busy growing and running the business. Yeah. I know this was me when I had my pizza places years ago, right? So through life experience, and then this collaborative approach we put together, I really feel so confident in the process we built for the 2 types of clients that we handle. And basically they know with confidence that they're going to get educated, and it's so much easier for them versus if you just come in for an annual review and all right, now we're going to hit your estate tax thing, or now we're going to hit your, wills and trusts. Well, we send them to the class first, and we have an estate attorney, not affiliated with the firm, just good friend that we refer a lot of people to. He and one of our advisors that does also happen to have a law degree teach that class together. And then the clients can sign up for a free consultation with the attorney. But then when we come back in, all right, did you have the consultation? Did you update the will? And then in the CRM, we just task it out every 36 months. Do we need to change your beneficiaries? Grandkids get born and you leave them out. We see this all the time. And so there's so many things you can be doing ahead of time. Planning makes life easier on the other end. And we give out what's called a smart document checklist. It's like an inventory. And we ask clients to fill this out. And that's one of the things we'll typically hand out in the first annual review. All right, I want you now do an inventory of my property and casualty agents, Joe Johnson at State Farm or whatever. And you list everything out, and then you give us a copy. We keep a copy, and then you tell us where the physical copy is in your house. And then, oh my gosh, when the unforeseen happens, we lose somebody. The adult shopping, hey, roll top desk in the den, top left drawer. There's a smart document. Grab that. And so then now we help them through the process of when you lose a loved one, mom or dad. Mom or dad's pretty emotional. Usually one of the adult kids is going to help them walk through everything. We've already got it laid out, what's going to happen. And so then you really are putting your fiduciary hat on and helping them understand how to take care of it, because it's an emotional time. And you should not be making emotional decisions, based on finances during that time.
Absolutely. So I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about the curriculum that you've built out. Did you create this curriculum yourself? Are you licensing it from somewhere? How did you?
No, yeah, we created our own curriculum.
That's awesome.
And I know there's services out there that do it, but the tax class, basically, I built out from life experiences and just implementing. And the tax class is real simple. Basically, we just tell a couple of stories, that so everybody can see themselves in the stories that we tell.
Sure.
And it explains the situations that they're likely to go through. And the same thing with Social Security. We basically explain the Social Security options. First, we're going to explain all the basics of it, all the different ways you can claim Social Security, what the rules are, why you might take it early, what the discount is you're taking, et cetera. Then we get into spousal benefits. We even teach a little bit about the benefits that you no longer get to use that were once really useful, like restricted application and file and suspend in the good old days, if you will. But we talk about the likelihood, what if Social Security runs out? That's a real fear. Well, I would tell you politically, I don't think that's a real fear because no politician is going to take a check away from somebody who's already retired. Now, do we have to make some actual changes? Yes. And that's part of the education is explaining when Social Security came into play, 1935, and how it's paid for. And while there is a massive pressure, because I think it's a little over 14,000 people every day are turning 65 this year. We're at the peak of the boomer run, but that pressure comes off in just 3 years, right? I mean, it will have been over. And I'm Gen X. We're about half the size of the boomers, literally a much, much smaller generation. So the pressure will come off Social Security. We do have to figure out how to fund it during that period. But right behind us is the millennials, 96 million strong, bigger than
That's
the boomers.
me, baby.
Yeah, and they're just now earning peak income. They're in their, they're past their mid 40s now. They're, closer to 50 than 40, the oldest millennials, and they're starting to earn better incomes, pay more in taxes. So all these problems can be solved, but politicians don't want to talk about that stuff because they need to sell fear to get reelected.
Yeah, that's how you get elected,
Yeah, which is why I'm a big fan of term limits. But anyway, that's another story. We can talk about those things too.
Yeah, we'll save that for another time.
But to your point, though, the educational content is derived around real world scenarios that we've gone through with our clients. And we've even curated new content and classes based off of client experiences. So one of my advisors has Rick Edelman created the certified digital asset specialist. And I'm drawing a blank on the certification he's got, but he loves crypto. And so we created the class, not that we're going to be investing a lot of retirees' money in cryptocurrencies, but they want to understand what it really is and how does it work. So we have a very basic class explaining how cryptocurrency is ironic because everybody buys it because it's decentralized, yet they all buy it on an exchange, and versus how you actually supposed to transact it. But anyway, we teach them what it is, and so they're not fearful from it, right? We don't want people to listen to fear mongers and make horrible mistakes. Like, I think gold is a fantastic asset. I own gold. I own silver, physical gold and silver. And it's almost in every client's portfolio in some way, shape, or form. But these commercials that just bombard people, these, put your money in a gold IRA. It's an unlicensed person not selling a security, and they don't understand how gold is taxed. It's a collectible if you buy coins. 28% capital gains tax on plus state tax. So 33% tax if you bought gold coins here where I live and then sold them for a gain later. And no one tells anybody this stuff. And then these gold IRAs, there's storage fees. And then one of our clients was told they had a meltdown fee when they bought one. So we just want clients to be educated so they don't make these irrational decisions based on the media, of the day. And let's face it, when things like the Iran wars break out, right, and oil spikes, people get nervous, and you see more of those commercials run on certain channels, et cetera. We're here to just calm people down, filter out the white noise, and get to practical planning that has real results. It's been tested, right? The processes work, et cetera. Yeah. Understanding there's no magic bullet. It doesn't exist.
Well, I love that you create your curriculum around specific examples, real world examples, so that people can kind of see themselves in those stories. So I love that. That way it's relatable. On that note, for somebody who sees themselves in this story, is interested in possibly working with you or taking the next step, what should they do next? Where should they go?
They would want to go to our website, retiresmartnow.com. And there's a ton of content on there. They can find our YouTube channel if they want to watch more content, but they can also just click to schedule a 15-minute discovery call. And that's usually the easiest process is we schedule to have 15 to 20 minutes with one of the licensed fiduciary advisors on the team to just do an intake call. Just mainly what we're trying to do is just answer the primary question or concern they have to see if it makes sense to even schedule an hour-long appointment or not. And because one of the things I will tell you, we don't do a lot of tire-kicking meetings, so to speak. In other words, when people come to see us, we actually tell them we need some documentation. So we want statements, we want your tax returns, because the work we do is off of real data, and we can't do it off of, well, I have about this much, and so that's what the phone call's for. Look, and if someone's not ready to actually give documentation, then they're not a fit, and we get it, and
Sure.
there's no problem with that. But we run a pretty tight ship, so to speak, but we know the results work. And our average client, it's well over six figures in tax savings that they receive by going through the planning process. So the potential tax savings are very real once you understand how the tax will work. And that's what we just say is, like, there's no obligation for the first two meetings. After that, the clock sort of starts to run. And so, but we can't, it's like going to a doctor and, hey, tell me what's wrong with me. All right, tell me your symptoms. No, don't want to tell you. Well, then
Yeah.
not a lot you can do. Right. So,
Well, David, thank you so much. For everybody listening, retiresmartnow.com. Go check it out. See if you're interested in working with David and his awesome team. David, thank you so much for coming on, telling us more about what you do, and we appreciate you.
hey, my pleasure, brother. And keep spreading the word out there and finding great advisors for people to work with.
We will. Thank you.